I think it sort of started out like when I was up in Sundance, my hands were so cold. Like they were just freezing. I couldn't get them to not be cold. It was the first time that had happened in the entire time. Like we were there for 12 days or something like that. And since it wasn't that windy, my hands weren't cold, right? But when they were cold, it was brutal. And it was so like, that's all you can think about.
And we had a conversation about frostbite. Yeah.
And it's painful. And I wanted to get that across that like, there's a few different elements. So like for people with depression, a lot of times they just don't take care of themselves. They completely neglect themselves. They don't shower. If there's stuff like that, like wounds and stuff, they don't even register it. So there's that element to it. I've also been I've always been really interested in people's like degradation over time and seeing how they just degrade and degrade and degrade. And since this film takes place over 1,000 days, which is a little over 3 years, a little under 3 years, you can really see someone go from being like somewhat spry to being like totally decimated by the end of it. So I really wanted to show that physically, not just in the look of the person, but like physically how like death has occurred on their body. And also there's the element of autosarcophagy, which I cannibalism in general, and autosarcophagy is the act of eating your own flesh. I find interesting as something that I explored in Foxes with the woman character eating her placenta. I mean, obviously, what are you going to do? Just let it sit there? It's a waste.
It is great for losing weight, apparently, after transplant.
And then there is a spiritual thing, and in some cultures, like the removal or consumption of your flesh and your fingers particularly matters for something. So your pinky is for your children, children,
your relationship to children.
Your ring finger is for love and for your heart, and your middle finger is for yourself. And in the end of the film, Carmen has to come to the realization that she needs to accept herself, right? Like, because her child is gone, so her pinky's gone. Her looking for love outside of herself is gone. It's just deteriorated, and there's nothing there. But the one that still clings to her, and the one that she must like come to terms with, is herself. Because in the end, you have to live with yourself, right? You're the one who gets you out of a hole. You're the one that gets you out of a rut, but you have to be able to come to that to yourself. In the film, there's another character who there's two other characters who like try to help her, right? But in the end, it's just you. It's just you, and in your darkness, in your world, and that's the thing that you have to come to grips with, and that's
and
part of
why
why
it's
the body horror
and also
was in there.
and
It justified it.
It was necessary in the sense of being able to move on in some way, and it's like a physical act of being able to do that. It was never really about the car.
Yeah.
Basically, at the end.
Yeah. Because like the car, there's nothing wrong with the car. It's the fact that she hasn't been doing the real work.
Which is, and the real work is confronting what happened and actually coming to terms with what happened. And the reason why she's there in the first place is that she is locked in this part in her brain. And then being able to move on from it, if she wants to move on, because that's the question. That's always the choice, is does she want to move on, or does she just want to fade? She's like, I can't live without my child. I don't know how to do that. So it's her having to come to that realization on her own.